Hello, welcome back to another video from L&L 3D Modeling. I'm Liam, and today we'll explore what variables are like in Onshape and how you can use them for part configurations. This video will be the first lesson of our advanced CAD training for Onshape. If you would like to view our full course, please head to our website, which we will link in the description for you. Today we'll also look at what configurations are exactly and what different ways there are to create them within Onshape. Now, if you've ever coded using JavaScript, Java, Python, or really any programming language before, then you're in luck because declaring variables is pretty similar. Although, instead of declaring a variable with words, we are going to use a feature, a button in the toolbar. So if you head to the toolbar and you go to where the plane is, select the drop down arrow next to it and go almost all the way to the bottom, you'll see variable. And there are a few different variable types. There's length, angle, number. There's one called any. There are some different measured variables. You can give it any name you want, though I highly suggest using camel case as it's usually the best way to keep variables organized. So let's say this is bolt width, and we'll give it 1 inch, or let's do 0.5 inches actually. So you simply, to create a length variable like this, give it a name, give it a value, and hit the check mark. That is all you have to do to declare a variable. Pretty simple. So yeah, somewhat similar to programming languages, but as you should have seen there, it is simpler. So now, what are configurations? Configurations are essentially different variations of the same part, and these different variations allow the part that you make to differ in any way that you can imagine. Variations can be different length, width, style, and any feature specific to your unique part you can create configurations for. And a great visual of this is actually the Vex V5 parts library, which I will show you now. It is available to anybody on Onshape, and I can link it in the description for you if you would like to use it as well. But yeah, I created a label for it, as you can see here. Let's go ahead and have a look at the parts. We're going to go to structure for this example, and as you can see, there are a good number of parts that are configurable since they put that in the name. We are going to configure a C channel. So as you can see, they have two configurations. As you'll learn later, this configuration type is a variable configuration, and this is a list configuration. So let's say we want this to be 12 inches, and we want this to be, as you can see, the list is a different width and material. So let's choose this aluminum one. Let's hit generate, and we can insert this part into our assembly. So now let's go ahead and get rid of that. We don't need that. So now let's explore how we can create configurations. We're going to do this by creating a simple bolt with a diameter of 1/4 inch, as you can see by the name. So go ahead and view normal to the top plane, make a sketch, select the circle tool, make it concentric to the origin, and we're going to make it 0.25 inches, or 1/4 inch. So that sketch is good. Now let's go ahead and declare our first variable. So, like before, go over to the plane feature over here, hit the drop down, and we are going to make a variable. This one will be called bolt length, and we're going to make it 1 inch. This is what we're going to have as the default extrusion for the length of a bolt, as you'll see later. But yeah, let's go ahead and make the extrusion for this. To use this variable, we're going to put it into the depth part, and instead of using 1 inch, we're going to use our variable bolt length. So to insert a variable, we're going to use hashtag. Use the hashtag key first, then type in the name of your variable, or select from the drop-down of the variables that it gives you, that you have made. So we're going to do that. As you can see, extrude 1 is using hashtag bolt length, which is 1 inch. And so there is the beginning of our part. We're going to go ahead and give it a gray appearance because I don't know any bolts that are blue. We're going to view normal to the top part again. We're going to create a new sketch on the surface. We're going to use the inscribed polygon feature to create a hexagon. So keep it as 6 sides there. Make the diameter 0.35 inches for that construction circle. And keep this as 6. Once you've done that, that sketch is good. We're going to go ahead and extrude our second sketch now. We're going to extrude it by 11/64 of an inch and make sure you're adding it to the existing part. And now to make our part look a little bit better, the head of the bolt, we're going to add a chamfer to that. And we're just going to make it 0.01 inches just to make it appear more like the head of a bolt. We'll do this to the top and the bottom. There we go, chamfer once more. As you can see, our bolt is coming together now. Now, we're actually going to make a thread for the bolt, but instead of using the external thread feature for Onshape, I'm going to use a custom feature called Thread Creator. I think it gives a better preview and is better for configuring. So we're going to use this. If you'd like to use this custom feature as well, I will provide the link for that in the description of the video. But yeah, we're going to select Thread Creator. We're going to do ISO standard. We're going to select the outside surface of our bolt. We're going to make the thread pitch 1 millimeter. And that is good. So there is the finished bolt. Now let's configure it. This is where the configuration learning really begins. So there are 3 types of configurations, as you can see here. There's list, checkbox, and configuration variable. We're going to start with configuration variable, which is a special type of variable that allows you to configure, the different features of your part. So once you click on that, just like with our variable from earlier, it'll ask you to give a name. We're just going to name this one length. We're going to keep the default as 1 inch. I'm going to change the minimum value for the length to 0.5 inches. And yeah, in case you want a 100,000 inch long bolt, we're going to keep the maximum as 100,000 inches. But as you can see, there are also different types of configuration variables, not just length. There's also angle, integer, real, and even text. But we're going to go ahead and say that that's good. Hit the check mark. Since the type of variable is length, we can configure any feature over here using this variable, but it must be a length input value, such as this one. And that is exactly where we're going to do this because we want to be able to configure the bolt length. So now, instead of 1 inch, we're going to do hashtag, and we're going to put our variable, hashtag length. We're going to hit the check mark once more. And now you'll see we have our first configuration. That is all you need to do for a configuration variable. You need to make a default value, name your variable, hit the check mark on that, and then once your configuration variable is done, put it into any related input. Just make sure they are related. So now we have that configuration here. Let's say we want to change it to 2 inches. we can go ahead and view that. As you can see, now it's 2 inches. We can change it to, as we said, the minimum was 0.5 inches. We can even do that. But yeah, that is our first configuration type. This allows length to be anything that you can imagine between the minimum and maximum. So very good if you want literally any value there. But we're going to go ahead and show y'all the remaining 2 types of configurations. We'll resume with checkbox. So this configuration we're going to use is for if you want the bolt to have thread or not. So we are going to name it no thread, so that when it is selected, the checkbox is selected, there won't be any thread. So it's a little bit different using the checkbox configuration than the configuration variable. Before you go to the features toolbar, since you can't use a variable, you go over to the button over here and select configure features. And since we are going to configure the feature with thread, we're going to select the custom thread creator feature. We're going to go in here. As you can see, you can configure any input of a feature that glows yellow. And for this feature, we are going to select unsuppressed. That way we can change whether the feature is suppressed or not. We're going to exit out of that and we're going to hit done. And as you should know, the suppression feature, or tool I guess rather, makes it so that a feature is in use or not. So if it is unsuppressed, that feature is in use, and if it is suppressed, as it sounds, that feature is not in use. And since this configuration is called no thread, when the checkbox is selected, we are going to have this feature suppressed. So we will not have this check mark. But when the no thread feature is not selected, meaning there is thread, we will keep this thread creator feature unsuppressed, meaning we'll keep the checkbox here. And so now that we've changed that, we are actually done with that configuration. And as you can see reflected on the left side of the screen, no thread is selected, and we have no thread on our bolt. And if I unselect it, the thread is now back on our bolt. So that is definitely a cool feature to allow you to toggle on features and toggle them off again. That is mainly what the checkbox is used for, but you can use it for anything you really want to. But yeah, mainly it is used for suppressing and unsuppressing features. So let's go ahead and look at the last configuration type, which is list. List works fairly similarly to configuration variable, only instead of any value, it is a set list of values from features, of course, that you have to configure. For this list configuration, I want to configure the pitch of the thread. So let's go ahead and do that. The default, as we set earlier, was a 1 millimeter thread pitch, so we're going to keep that the same. I want to make another one for a 2 millimeter thread pitch. You could add as many of these as want. And to delete them, simply right click, delete row. Yeah, so let's go ahead and configure our feature. So again, select the configure features button. We're going to go to our custom thread creator feature. And as you can see once more, you can choose any input that glows yellow. We want to configure the pitch. So that is what we will select. And as you can see, that has now been added to our configuration. That's all we needed. Let's hit the X here, and let's hit done here. And you can change the values for the list. So this value, of course, we will keep as 1 millimeter. for the 2mm thread pitch, we're going to change it to 2mm. But once you have done that, that is all you need to do. You can add another one for 3mm thread pitch if you would like, but that is how you use this configuration type. And you can see that reflected in the configuration on the left. So we have 1mm thread pitch selected now. That is the default. Select 2mm thread pitch, and it changes the pitch to 2mm. We can always change it back. We can change to no thread. We can change back to thread. We can change it to 1.5 inches. But that is how you use every configuration type in Onshape. Let's go ahead and see how this looks in an assembly. So when you go to insert your part into an assembly, you'll see the configuration. Make sure the drop down is selected so you can see the configurations. We are going to have thread for this one. We're going to use 2mm thread pitch, and let's say 2.5 inches. Make it a rather long bolt. You go ahead and hit generate, select the part, and you can insert it into your assembly. So that is all for this introduction to configurations and of course variables. Make sure to check out our website for the full CAD course on Onshape. We will have all 4 levels of beginner, intermediate, advanced, and expert. Again, the link for that is in the description. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Any feedback as well, leave that in the comments. And yeah, that is all. Just make sure to subscribe for more of our free content. And yeah, we will see you next time.